Welcome to section 0.2, coding instructions. We're going to go through and teach you how to follow along with the instructions in order to code. This will save you a lot of headaches. It's pretty simple. It's much like putting together Lego blocks. However, programming is a little bit more complex than putting together some Lego blocks. Well, I don't know. I've been putting together some Ninjago sets for my kids, and that's proven to be quite a challenge at times. Okay, so these blue coding boxes here, they're going to have a list of each type of block that you're going to need and how many times you need to use it in the program. And you can see right here in this example, I've got a little blue coding block like so, okay, and it has each individual box or block that you need, okay, and it tells you right beside it the number that you need. For example, this little green flag tool or green flag block, you only need one of those. Over here, for example, this one that says change y by 10 times 2, that means you're going to use 2 of those. One thing to remember when you look at these instructions, and just by default, Scratch puts values inside these blocks. And I'll show you how to change this in future instructions. These values, you'll have to change these values based upon what you see down here in the main function that's being presented to you. So the main thing to know is that this blue box right here in the instructions is going to give you all the different blocks that you need to use to create this function down below. The blue boxes also are used for something in addition to just giving you the number of blocks you need. They also tell you other things that you need to create. For example, we'll be creating variables, and variables, which you'll learn how to create in the future, the blue boxes tell you which variables to create. Okay, don't worry about what this function does. You just worry that this blue box right here tells you to create these 2 variables, and you can see the 2 variable names are right down below. Another item that the blue boxes will tell you to create are going to be broadcast messages. So it's going to tell you the broadcast message you need to create, and then it gives you the name that you'll create. Okay, these names, we just make these names up. This isn't some set name created by the programming gods. Okay, this is a name that we can make up. We can misspell them. We can do all sorts of fun stuff with the names. But the main thing is that we create these names on our own for the broadcast messages, and the blue boxes tell you to create these. And the same holds true for variables whenever we work with those. Here's 2 terms you need to know when we start programming. And when we program, we're going to be creating functions through the use of algorithms. You might have heard these in your math classes or someplace else. But the definition of a function is a set of code that performs a certain job by receiving input and producing an output. That's what a function will do. Okay? And I give you an example. If you play a video game and you press a certain button, it causes the player to jump or swing a sword or fire some sort of projectile or do something. Okay? That would be a function. There's an input from the user, pressing a button, then there's an output of some sort of graphic animation on the screen. The output could also be sound being played or an animation. The input could also come from if you have a microphone and you're able to speak into the program, and the program understands what you're saying, and it has some sort of output based upon your input. Okay. Next, an algorithm is the instruction that tells the computer step by step what to do. Okay, so down here a function is made of algorithms. Okay, what that means is, let's go back to this picture right here. Okay, this whole thing is a function. However, each one of these little steps inside here with these programming blocks, that's going to be the algorithm to make this function to take the input and produce an output. Okay, it'll make more sense once you create these things. And this is all just terms that's good to know. At our level, we could probably just say, hey, we just need to know that a function will have input and output and will perform some sort of action. Okay, and the algorithm is all the steps to make that function work. And they give you an example down here of an algorithm. An algorithm to make, say, a phone call. It would be to, step by step, would be pick up the phone, then type in the number, and then call a contact. Of course, a lot of people don't have to type in phone numbers anymore because their phones automatically do it. But you could say, pick up your phone, press the button to contact Siri or any of the other interactive voice response systems. Say, call my aunt, and then the phone will call your aunt or whoever, and that would be the algorithm. But the function would be the actual comprehensive set of steps that actually allow you to create that phone call. The screen layout. There's going to be some major items on the screen layout when you program that you need to know. First, the blue boxes, which we briefly discussed earlier. Those are going to have all the programming blocks that you need to use to create a function, and it has all the broadcast and variables that you'll need to create also. The red boxes, however, which you might have briefly seen, I'll show you some of these here in a second. These are going to present the overviews of the functions that you're creating and some instructions that teach how the functions and algorithms work. It's very important to go through and read these. Okay. Another item that will appear in addition to these videos is the listening. You also need to get in the good habit of going through and reading about the topic when we're talking about the blue boxes through two different sensory. Then we'll have a step number. These are going to be the green boxes that show you which sensories of your body. There's some details with these. Start getting information. Pause the video and go through and read these. The verbal instructions, the video, the written instructions. Yeah, I'll explain them in the video, but you might want to function pause the video. That's also going to appear. It's going to be the completed code that's given to you. Back of your mind. Then we'll also give a step number, sprite icon, which is a picture of the sprite you're currently coding, and then we have the section title. This helps you stay on topic to make sure you're not accidentally programming a separate section that's not part of the section that you should be working on. Okay, so what does this all look like on the screen layout? One, we have our blue box right here with all the coding blocks. Okay, then these red boxes right here, they have all the written instructions that tell you what to do. Okay, and you might want to pause the video again to see these red instructions because they're kind of explaining what you see on the screen right here. And then here's our function, like so. Down here is the step number. This is important. This is the one that could get you. Is that the step number? We've got it listed as step 1A. Okay? Whenever you see a step number with a period and a letter after it, that tells you that particular sprite that you're working on. And here's the sprite icon that shows you which sprite we're working on. Okay? This step number, since it has a letter after it, tells us that there's more than one programming page for this particular sprite. Okay, so if there's a letter after the number, that tells you that that sprite has more than one page of programming instructions. Some sprites will have 2 pages. I have some sprites in some of the advanced programs, they'll have about 15, 16 pages to program for one particular sprite. So if you see the letter afterwards, you know that that particular sprite has more than one page, or excuse me, one step of programming instruction. Down here in the bottom left is the section title that you would be programming in. If you don't see a section title down here, that probably means that there is only going to be there's no other sections in that particular unit. So if you don't see it there, that means that there's no section in that particular unit, so just go ahead and ignore that. I switched over to the curriculum in its reading format to show you an example of what the screen layout looks like. Since this is Unit 10 and it's actually a project that's built upon the mini lessons of Unit 9, you'll notice that we don't have the section name down here, okay, because there are no sections in this unit. Second, this stage only has one step, okay, so there's only one page of instructions for the stage. If I come to the next step here, which is step 2 for the sprite called maze, this sprite only has one step also, okay? And it has all the instructional content that you need for this sprite on this one page. So there's no letter after the number. Now we come to step 3. You'll notice that 3.A tells us that there's going to be more than one page of instruction for the sprite called runner. When I come to the next page, it's still step 3.A. What that has done is it took 3A and we moved the function up a little bit, and then we put in all the reading instructional material for this function. Okay, this is the same function you created right here on this page 329, but since we're limited on space, we moved the function to a new page with all the written instructions, so we didn't cram everything into one page. Okay, so 2 pages, same sprite, and 3.A tells us that it's the same step, same function, except this page we're just showing you how to program it, and this page we're explaining in detail all the algorithms that we use to create this function. Next, here's 4A. Again, we just have instructional material that shows us how to make all these functions. And then the next page of 4A shows us some detailed reading instruction material for these functions. Again, 5A, same kind of scenario. We have our coding blocks right here. We have some additional reading material for 5A. But notice here, now we went to 5B, okay? All these other ones have been going from number.A to number.A. Now we're going to to a new letter, which is step 5B. In 5B, we're making a brand new function for this particular sprite. So this sprite is going to have multiple functions inside of its instructional content. So again, let's go through it real quick. So it's center sprite. The letter after the step number tells us this has multiple pages. We can see right here on page 333, we're programming all these functions. It gives us all the blocks here that we need to create all of these. It has some reading material that explains what's going on. But then we go to the next page, page 334. Step 5B has a new function that we'll be programming with this new set of programming blocks. And then there's a little bit of reading material here. Then the next page, 5B, which is page 335, it gives detailed explanation of how this function works. And again, now we go to 5C, and since we're on 5C, we're programming a brand new function. Okay, so every time the letter changes, that tells you that you're programming something new for that sprite. In this case, we're programming this brand new function right here that's going to allow us to control the sprite around the scene. And then it also has some additional reading material. And then at the very end of that instructional material, the sensor, we have a page called the sensor complete, and it's going to have a display of every single function you need for that particular sprite. When you get to the point where you're going to read the red code boxes with the explanation of what's taking place in these functions, and it breaks down the algorithms step by step on what they do, there's essentially two different types of red boxes, and these are used interchangeably. Is one, we have an overview box. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. It just really depends. Some of these functions are self-explanatory based upon the instructional content that's listed here. Other times it might need an additional explanation of, say, hey, this set of functions, here's what these are going to do. So there's going to be a little bit of an overview that is displayed with the detailed explanation of the algorithms that use arrows and braces to help identify key areas in the function on what's taking place. Okay, so they're using these arrows and braces to help bring your attention to what's going on. And you can see down here on this step, this is step 20.A for this particular sprite. So you can see this is from an advanced program here, that we have multiple steps that get, quite numerous because we're making some pretty advanced programs once we get to that point. And I believe this is from unit 14 or 15. The combo step is when you're programming and reading the instructions on the same page. You've already seen some pictures of what this looks like when I've pulled up the curriculum. You'll notice that we have our blue boxes right here and our red boxes all on the same set of programming instruction. Okay, so just keep in mind, not every page will be independent of, these are only blue boxes that tell you to create the functions and the broadcast messages and variables, and then other pages won't always only have the red boxes with the explanation. Sometimes it'll be put together just to make the curriculum more concise, so that way you can quickly move through the instructions and have an enjoyable experience. And just be flexible when you see these things. Just kind of look at it and say, oh, okay, here's all the programming blocks. This tells me I need to make these functions. Let's make sure I've got the right number. Then down here, this is telling me which messages I need to create. And then there's also the reading notes right here. Multifunction sprites and stages. This is a scenario where you're going to have some sprites and your stage where there's going to be more than one function on there. Okay, and this is a really cool feature of Scratch, and actually this cool feature of programming in general with some of our more advanced languages, that we can have multiple functions for one particular object. I've already shown you an example but let me go ahead and pull that back up for you. I pulled up Scratch so you can see what I was talking about. In this scenario, we're looking at this sprite called sensor, and this sprite right here has 1, 2, 3 functions. Okay, so that would qualify it for my definition of a multifunction object, which would mean that this sprite has more than one function. Okay, it's just important to know that whenever you make these programs, that sometimes one object, one sprite, will have multiple functions that can work with each other. And I don't think, yeah, the stage only has one function. It's very simple. And then the platforms right here has 2 functions. So this one would also be multiple functions here. I pulled up the instructional content so you could see how the explanation of that sensor sprite would look inside the material. Is one on this page, step 2.a, which is page 368. We have a list of all the blocks right here. We tell you which variable to create. We have some reading material to explain what's going on with these functions. And there's 2 of the functions. Then we go to the next page, page 369, which is step 2.b. And there's a brand new function that you'll create. Here's all the programming blocks that you'll need. And there's some explanation as to what's going on with this function. Then we go to the next page, 370. You'll notice it's still step 2b. And this has a detailed explanation of the algorithm that creates the function for this particular sprite. And then the next page, 371, has the 3 functions that we created for this sprite. Once you have finished programming the project or the mini lesson, you're going to get to a page within the material that says run your project. And you'll notice it with the little green flag over here. Whenever you run these projects, this is a chance for you to make sure everything's working properly. Okay? And they're also in the videos, when we get to that part of the explanation, you'll see a quick video on what it should look like whenever you're completing your program. Okay, if you do have errors in your program, okay, you're going to have to perform an activity called troubleshooting. And troubleshooting is the ability to pinpoint the source of a problem when something is not working correctly. Okay, and I can almost guarantee you, if you develop this skill, you're going to be an awesome programmer, or you're going to be very, very, very good at doing anything with a computer. Okay, I've found that there's times where students, or even myself, there just seems to be no answer to your solution, but you just keep going through the troubleshooting strategies that we'll show you here. If you keep using those, you'll find that you can actually solve almost any problem that you'll have with your program. Okay, some of the key items: 1, you got to be patient. Okay, you got to be very, very patient, and don't let yourself get frustrated. And if your program still doesn't work, take a break. Okay, and there's all sorts of psychological things going on whenever you do decide to take a break and just walk away from your program and maybe go exercise or go do something relaxing like read a book or maybe play a game with your parents' permission, of course, or just do something to kind of get your mind off the problem and then come back and try to see if you can solve the problem. Okay, we'll get more detail on troubleshooting and its specifics, but the main thing is be patient and take a break whenever you can't figure it out. Next, expand your skills in the creation station. I briefly talked about this. This quickly shows you what one would look like. Well, they don't look like this. These are multiple pages that I put together so you can see them on the scene. These are designed to challenge you as you use your newly acquired skills to create something new. And the solution to these creation stations are going to be found by adapting, expanding, reorganizing, or combining existing code from the project. You'll have to get creative and do a little bit of thinking, which is good, in order to come up with the solutions to these creation stations. The next is the SC Mashup. Again, we talked about these briefly. The SC Mashup, just so you can see what it looks like, will have a set of instructions where you have to pull material from different units and different sections and to be able to create something new with these. Okay, nothing in the SC Mashup is new. Okay, everything that's in there has been explained to you in other units and other sections within the curriculum. TeamZilla is when you will be working together on a small team to complete a task. this is put in there because learning how to work on a team is a very important skill to develop as you go throughout school and your professional careers. Okay, and working on teams, you can accomplish so much more than just working by yourself, especially when it comes to software development. You'll notice most of the major games out there that you've played have hundreds of people working on them. These exercises for TeamZilla, they include a research topic and preparing presentations, and they also include creating a game as a team. There'll be step-by-step explanations on how to go through and to create these items. Some important skills to remember to be an effective team is you got to stay positive, you have to be open, which means communicate very well with each other, be honest, and you got to be supportive of every member on your team. Those are just some small skills to start developing to make your teams much more effective. And that's going to wrap us up for Unit 0, Section 0.2. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video, which will be Unit 1, Section 1.1.